those who were involved in making it come to life. Join us as we go behind the door.
Good evening and welcome back to a special episode of Behind the Door with the Grey Rooms podcast. Tonight we got something different. This is for the preseason episodes, which is something that we've never done before. And here in the Grey Rooms headquarters with me tonight, I have not one, but two authors from our preseason episodes. We have Tori Miller, the author of Chop Shop.
Hello.
And we also have Arthur Unk in the building. He did the very last episode that just came out a day or two ago, Dead Air.
Reporting for duty, sir.
Welcome, you two. I mean, holy crap, we've started season 4 now. Unofficially, we've got the preseason going, and we had you, Tori. We had you, Arthur. We've had Mark Taus. Basically, just right out the gate, hitting all of the fans with this shit that everybody loves. How are you two feeling right now?
I'm feeling pretty good, actually. I mean, that might be the local Indiana bourbon hitting my system finally, but I'm feeling pretty great.
Yeah, you gotta preheat the oven before you stick in the turkey, Brooks.
Oh, wow. How are you feeling tonight, Arthur?
Oh, it is a beautiful night, and I'm having a good time.
You're having a good time. Excellent. Well, let's have a good time together, the three of us. I just want to get into the meat and potatoes here then, basically, and start with you, Tori, right off the bat. I was telling you, before we started talking here that your story to me was just this kind of fun, again, this fun blockbuster that we all kind of get used to. We kind of go around the different genres of stories here at the Grey Rooms. And yours was just this really fun, I want to say methodical, but definitely a linear story of just like, oh shit, what's going to happen next? Oh shit, that's disgusting. Oh shit, is that, oh damn. Like, you just kept kind of plateauing for a second. And I thought, this is where the horror story is going to sit for a while. And then you just kind of ratcheted it up a little bit again. Do you want to kind of touch on where you even got the idea for Chop Shop?
So the actual origins for Chop Shop was literally just a prompt of, hey, why don't you just create a slasher for the Grey Rooms, and instead of having a masculine, run-of-the-mill Jason-type villain, why don't you just make an anti-Jason? What would that look like? And that's just where it went from there.
Interesting. So did you have the concept then of your hero of the story first, or kind of the villain of the story first?
Oh, villain first, all the way. I basically decided to create the villain first, and then for my quote-unquote heroes, I basically just stole, the ideas of the two robbers from Home Alone. And it's like, what if I just made two dumb guys just like Home Alone used to make? This is what I'd come up with.
Yeah, interesting. I had to listen a second time just to really feel the transition, because I was confused at first, I guess, maybe when I read it first, because I read this a little while back before hearing it produced, but kind of figuring out how Lindsay, the main character, was even roped into it all. And it really was just happenstance, right? Like, they weren't, were you meaning to imply that maybe that they were set up to get put into this position where they would end up ultimately becoming meat? Or was this just happenstance, they just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, and he poked his head where he didn't belong?
I would almost say a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B. I kind of wanted to leave that vague enough where, the listener is like, oh my gosh, I feel like they totally got, completely duped into coming here for whatever reason. I'd probably say, well, yeah, you're right. And if anyone argues to the, against it, sure, I would also, agree with them. I mean, it's kind of up to interpretation, because I never really wrote anything concrete one way or the other.
Okay, God, I like that. I like when authors kind of leave it a tiny bit dubious. There's a little bit of it could be a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Choose your own adventure kind of, but still staying within the lane. Mm-hmm. You had said that you came up with the villain first, and then basically Lindsay could have just been kind of like just the every person hero going through the situation. So then what gave you this concept? Because you kind of touched on like the restaurant industry a little bit. There was really funny jokes like about Graham's character and talking about the taco. Can you kind of expand on that a little bit?
So the funny thing was Earl's like part, although very small, was actually a very symbolic, piece for me, because out of the 17 drafts, there were more middle characters, that were supposed to show up in that scene where things are being bought and sold. And kind of funny about, Earl's character is I wanted a joke part in the middle to ease into the finale of all the, meat slicing and hacking and all sorts of, stuff, to sort of touch back to the origins of, where I kind of got the idea, where I don't know what it was. I think I rewatched an anime called Beastars, and in it was like an illegal meat market or something. And that was kind of the catalyst of, oh, this is horrible. That meat's actually people. And sure enough, I turned it into sort of the, good gray room story that it is today. And, Earl was not only a small part, but a really funny part because of just the deadpan humor that I just absolutely love as a writer.
Well, and it just kind of, to me, just the whole scene was so absurd. These people like discussing human meat, right? But talking about it as it's just this general kind of cuisine that they're discussing how to, I guess, make the best for people. And then also having, Lindsay, I guess when he kind of escaped, he spilled out, into the actual like main restaurant area. Yeah. Which just sets up this whole conspiracy theory to me of, you kind of said there was like a couple of big wigs and, big shot people that Lindsay noticed sitting out in the restaurant. So you've even are insinuating that like people are you insinuating if these people are in on what's going on, or do none of these people have any idea that they're eating humans?
I'm going to assume in sort of the world I kind of created, I assume that it's more of one of those quote unquote open secrets within society.
This is a new concept. I love this. You definitely kind of turned. In horror, we're always like, who's going to pick the next thing that they're going to turn into horror? And this is such an obvious, of course, because it's horrible cutting people up and eating their meat.
Right.
But the way in which you put this together it's just a very unique and entertaining idea.
It's the quickest story for me to go from 0 to vegetarian. And honestly, that restaurant scene, I think, I can't exactly take, 100% full credit on, because my original rendition of that scene was, I think it was like the mayor half passed out on the couch or something, drunk off his ass. And I think, Arthur, you came up with partially that ending part with the restaurant and all that.
When you say that it took you 17 drafts to get through this story, Tori, how are you making those revisions? Like, were you running this story through Arthur, like back and forth? How are you determining I'm going to draft this again, I'm going to change this again? Like, what was that process about?
The only reason why I do new drafts is something has to change. Mm-hmm. Like for some of my current projects, some of these drafts have to be like redone only because, the ending's good or something's terrible about it and I got to knock it out and then redo it.
Yeah. Okay. And then people like Arthur also helping you be accountable, basically, right? Like, do you feel as though, not that you have to look forward to, I got to write this for Arthur, but just that that someone is going to say, hey, you're not writing enough, or, I challenge you to maybe reframe this part of the story, or this, like how Arthur was touching on the ending of the story, basically.
So, I mean, to Arthur's credit, like, in my opinion, like, I have a lot of people who read my drafts, but Arthur is the one person right now that keeps me very honest with my actual like craft. Right. And if I throw out a terrible joke or a terrible, like something just doesn't quite work right within a story, I fully know well that Arthur will call me out on it, but it would be very constructive, and it's not just going to be, oh, this just doesn't work, and then just throw it right back over on my side. Figuring,
sure.
Tell me just to figure it out.
Yeah, it tells you nothing. It doesn't help you identify what needs improvement. Man, Arthur, you're a great author friend.
Well, if you can find a accountability partner, which is kind of what me and Tori have become, we've become each other's accountability partners, especially in writing, because if you give a criticism, you're only telling somebody what's wrong. But if you give a critique, you're saying, hey, this works. And then later on, you're like, this doesn't work. Here's my suggested fix, or here's my problem with it. So that way you give whoever's writing the story the ability to say, oh, I never saw it from that perspective before.
That's great advice also just for like friendships in general, for relationships, like that whole idea, of working together that way and holding each other accountable that way. I think it's great. For sure. Otherwise, you're just, some guy, some girl, some person somewhere by yourself at a desk, just writing stuff out for nothing. So
I've been there before, and it's not as much fun as one thinks that it might be.
Yeah, you need some kind of gauge. You need to know that you're doing the right thing or the wrong thing or just a thing. You just need to know that your thing is affecting someone else. Otherwise, what is the thing that you're doing? So, yeah, accountability is amazing.
Oh, and don't beat yourself up as an artist, because that never works out well for anyone.
Of course.
Reasons.
That's rule number 2. Yeah, don't don't be mean to yourself. You need to have self-love. You should never be self-deprecating about your own writings or whatnot, because you will manifest that. You will, over time, convince yourself, oh, my writing is terrible. If you keep saying, oh, that was shit that I just wrote, well, then you're just going to keep labeling everything you do as shit, and so then, of course, you're going to make shit, because you're manifesting that. You got to stay away from that. It's a big mental trap.
Unless you send Arthur a whole document full of prepositional phrases.
does Arthur speak on that?
Well, it's become kind of a running joke, because there's about 5 or 6 of us Grey Room authors who all trade stories amongst each other. And whenever anybody sends me a real early draft, I have a tendency to mark when people begin sentences with prepositional phrases. And I will, if I find 1 or 2, I will go through the whole document and mark every single one of them. I think my record so far has been 54 in one document. So
for people who are listening that might not quite know what you're saying, can you give a quick example?
For example, if you say, while we were at the store, Jason drove his car.
Uh-huh.
So you could say, instead, it would say Jason drove his car while we were at the store. It has a better flow and a better sound to it.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. Okay. So yeah, there's so many little things that as writers you could help each other, like how you just are speaking on that. You understand that flow and that pattern, and you can help newer writers below you just point that out. That's great to kind of have that synergy with each other. You said there's 5 or 6, of you Grey Room's authors working together. It sounds like a pool of intelligence here that we're sucking from for the show. You got to be careful with that power.
It provides perspective, and we got an international audience. So there's even people from across the pond, Ireland, from England, from Canada, even though I know that's not across the pond. But you get these perspectives from other cultures and the way other people see things.
Yes, thank you.
It's invaluable.
Absolutely. I loved that about CM Peters' story, The Prey. I think that was episode 13 last season 3, just because of learning about the Sukuyant and teaching us a completely different culture's version of horror, and how that can be just as scary as anything else. We all are afraid of the same things. We just have our versions of what that thing is. It's, a scary face here is still a scary face, in a different culture, but it's how the story is told and whatnot. So yeah, having different authors like that together, giving those ideas, and you guys rubbing, shoulders together, everybody. Man, fucking A. This is why the Grey Rooms is so great.
Yeah, and
that's right.
CM Peters is in our group of people that exchange stories and ideas. So
Look at that! I didn't
it's
even
absolutely funny that you say that
know that.
because
How synchronistic is that? That's great. Good job, CM Peters. If you're listening, I'm proud you're all working together. You're a great author. Thank you for bringing your vibe.
Really do love the story. I really do like it.
Yeah. So Arthur, I don't want to scoot off of you, Tori, unless you're. Do you want to talk any more about your story? Can we talk about Arthur? Arthur, do you want to talk about Tori's story? Can we talk about who wants to talk about what here?
oh no, I'll tell you what. One of the most exciting things for me is seeing someone like Tori start from a fan and work their way up to author, and now Tori's the community manager and just becoming more involved with the gray rooms. I mean, it just I'm living vicariously through Tori. So
Do you want to speak on that, Tori? Do you want to introduce yourself that way?
I'm honored. I'm super honored being the community manager, and it's still like kind of one of those pinch me moments where I never thought my first foray into horror would be such a loving and great opportunity, because I originally just picked up this podcast out on a whim, just saying, I'll see if I like horror. If I don't, I can just put the podcast away. But no, it kept literally kept my attention long enough to where it's like, you know what, I'll write Takeover. And then from there, I'm going to try to get better as a writer and write Chop Shop. And then it branches out to so many different projects and opportunities where, non-Grey Rooms related, I ended up getting something accepted into an anthology here pretty soon. And I don't know how much I could talk about that, but I'm going to say that I got accepted into an anthology. So, it's exciting. Like, it's a really exciting time for me right now. Like, I wouldn't trade it for much.
And as community manager, what are you doing for the Grey Rooms?
Other than bringing in bots, killing bots, and
yeah, we have a lot of bots to.
Yeah. So, I mean, this probably won't be as evergreen, but in the beginning, when I originally thought, how am I going to improve the Grey Rooms Discord? I thought, hey, there's a sort of a gap with our Discord versus other ones I've seen. There's a bot for that. So I kept inviting more in and trading them out. Then I got the call from management saying, hey, this one bot, we don't like him anymore. You got to kill him.
You and bots.
Well, actually, and that's the other thing is, as a writer, I'm probably, almost at a prime position because of my background. Hey, I probably should focus a little bit more on, techno horror and maybe medical horror or something, something right around that avenue, because it could cover such a wide range of topics.
Oh yeah, I mean, and don't pigeonhole yourself. Like, write what you feel like. I mean, Chop Shop is so opposite of Takeover, but yet both. I can, like, my brain is just on the verge there of seeing your pattern. Like, I need to see two more stories of yours, right? Like, hear them, produce stuff like that, like, just to get the full effect.
Right.
I feel like I would know your tone, and so I like where you're going.
And see, that's the thing is, I love podcasts, and I love hearing, my characters, speak and act and all that sort of stuff. So it gives me so much joy, and it's almost like a vice where, I want to write, the next, screenplay or, Grey Rooms thing, and have that produced. If you ain't turning, you ain't earning. At least that's what I heard.
There you go. The beauty of this whole Grey Rooms dream that Jason came up with is it's happening exactly as we wanted it to, which is great. Is that it's become this tree, and we're all just, and I've been saying this and behind the doors for years now. It's like this tree, and we're stewards to it, and we grow it, and it gets bigger, and it produces fruit for everybody. And it's happening that we've got now authors, coming to join the experience and contribute their writing so that we can produce their stories, and understanding that this can keep happening season after season and growing and getting bigger and bigger as a community. It's all very, very horrifically beautiful. So anyways, I'm starting to spin out here. It's great having you aboard, Tori. It's great having your energy on the team, helping, in the Discord and just other behind the door things that you've been behind the scene things that you've been helping us with. Thank you very much. The whole team appreciates it.
Well, and I just appreciate you guys, having me on, because I always love to pitch new ideas and test them out. And if they don't work, I kind of move on and learn from them. I just don't take it personally and, just try to do what I can.
That is sage life advice. Let's point our limelight at Arthur now. Let's talk about his story. He's been sitting patiently. How much do you have left to drink there in your cup, Arthur?
I have been drinking Red's Apple Ale and Fireball whiskey, so I am ready.
Ooh, that's a deadly combo.
It's apple cinnamon goodness. You take a Red's Apple Ale, you pour it into a cup, and then you just pour the shot into the Red's Apple Ale, and it makes apple cinnamon goodness.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Actually, I like that you're not just like, drinking cheap schnapps or something like that. You know what you're doing. Okay, so dead air. Like, what the hell did you write here? There's comedy, there's horror, like there's tropes, there's just classic storytelling, like there's allegories. What were you doing? Were you being serious when you wrote this story, or were you just having fun? What were you doing?
This was a story that when I wrote it, I felt good about it when I wrote it. The beginnings of this story, I pitched to someone probably about 2 years ago, and it was about I had watched you remember the old 80s movie The Warriors? Warriors,
yeah, come out and play. Yes.
I was completely obsessed with the DJ that was on there, because there was always this smooth talking DJ, and I was like, that's cool. I wonder if I could do something with that. And then around that same time, you had great movies come out like Escape from New York. You had just all these great 80s influences. And I was like, you know what? I wonder if I could write a story that was kind of like The Warriors, but make it horror.
Yeah. Your story has such an 80s vibe to it, and I have no idea how to explain it.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was where it came from, because I was like, it was just that feeling that you got from that, just the rawness of it, that that visceral stuff, and it just evolved into Dead Air, which I have a bad habit of picking my titles from choice lines within the story, because I think there was one line towards the end where one of the lead bad guys is like, "Go take care of our dead air problem."
Yeah. The mimic says that. I
Yeah.
think to the sheriff or something like that. I mean, spoilers. We can give away everything.
But it's just like I like, I just love putting Easter eggs in my stories, because I dropped a lot of them. If you haven't listened to it 2 or 3 times, you will definitely get some juicy Easter eggs from there.
Yeah, you're pretty thorough. You paint a very colorful landscape. I feel like whenever I hear your stories, there's just some, like in Ride, from last season, you just had that like big. I could just see the big giant country and the lightning storms, or the hot sun, anything that needed to fill in the background of your story. I could feel that energy there in the story, while they were in their car. And again, you brought this like very, to me, distinct visual, but instead of it being what I was just describing, it was just this nostalgia of my own youth and my own love of those old kinds of horror movies. So you did a fantastic job of like piecing together. Plus, it comes out on Halloween. It just feels like such a fitting episode for Halloween. I'm just gonna clap and hope that you can feel that through the microphone.
Oh, I definitely feel the love.
Yeah, it's great.
I did a tiny clap because I didn't want it to be wrecking someone's ears halfway across the world. You're welcome.
There you go. There you go. I'll
Yeah, I'll take golf claps.
slow golf clap. Yes.
A few interesting points for Dead Air. Two of the biggest influences that I had on Dead Air was actually Tori and CM Peters, which we had mentioned earlier. I don't remember if anybody remembers her behind the door interview, but she actually currently works in radio. And so I got a lot of that radio perspective from CM Peters when I sent her my draft. I'm like, fix my stuff. And she's like, well, you can't do this because it's not realistic. And if you do this, the station manager is going to be all over you and all that. And that's why I was like, oh, thank you. She gave me so many good ideas.
So you could kind of piece together the environment that, what is his name? Murphy? Howlin' Joe Murphy?
Howlin' Mad Murphy.
Mad Murphy, thank you. I don't know where I got Joe from. Joe is the name of the actor. But you're just talking about establishing kind of the scene for him to be sitting in for the story. You just kind of got pointers from her. Wait, what do you mean specifically?
Well, for instance, when Howlin' Mad Murphy first captures the person on air, like basically puts him in this machine or this contraption, she was like, now the station manager would either shut it down right there or somebody would be making a phone call or something. And that's where we get the dead Roger from. Because originally it was a dead security guard, but I had Mad Murphy pay off the security guard and Roger trying to come in to save his show. And in doing so ended up getting killed. Sorry,
That's
Roger.
Right. He finds Roger at the end. Yeah. Okay.
So I laid the death of Roger at CM's feet, and I was like, this is your fault. Congratulations. You killed fictional people.
Just had to move that plot along.
But I would say that the biggest challenge of writing it was just how to structure it. Because I knew what I wanted to do, but I couldn't. You have to have transitions. And since it was all basically taking place in one studio, I was like, what am I going to do for transitions? That's where you get things like Captain Dave's Fish and Chips, or you get the news break, because I had to think of ways that I had to transition between scenes.
Sure. Yeah, to break up otherwise just the single scene that the entire thing took place in. Yeah. Oh, it was great, and it gave such good fodder for Jason to work with, to produce, because he comes from a background of radio. Like that was his actual, was part of his former profession. So I think he had a hell of a time doing this, to produce this.
Although, if I may add, the only thing that it was missing commercial-wise was the annoying car commercial that you hear from local dealers.
Wait, like them trying to offload the cars and just talking about the big sales that they're having or something like that?
Yeah, like big sales, annoying sound effects, like...
Yeah. He's got
it's like, if I don't sell 20 cars by the end of this week, I'm going to club this baby seal.
Wait.
It's got like a plaid tweed jacket on.
So wait, you heard a Grody Automotive commercial? I mean,
absolutely.
Oh no, you're influenced by Grody Automotive. I am so sorry.
What is Grody Automotive?
So local regional dealer. I think Arthur and I are close enough in the same area where we both get Grody Automotive commercials and love the commercials. It's just they're annoying as hell.
Over the top.
Yep, and that's what I also like about those commercials. It just has that trashy charm that you like eating into, but you feel sick afterwards.
Well, yeah, it makes you realize that anybody can take a camera and make a commercial. Yep. Sometimes it's so bad it's good, and that's part of the charm of it. But yeah, sometimes you get some real gems of some actual fuck ups. And
please don't sue us, Grody. Please don't sue us, Grody. We love you.
There you go. So I meant to ask, you too, Tori, but I guess I'll ask both in tandem, and then make you fight over who gets to answer. But how did you like it, Tori, having Jeff Clement, voice your main character, and then Arthur, how was it having, I guess, the world famous David Cummings, acting in your story? Like, how did that make you guys feel, just to know that happened?
I'll let Tori go first.
I am so starstruck, honestly, like super stoked, like so happy that, you know, it even happened. And the fact that he did such a really great job, it's like, I mean, I hope he comes back for more projects and stuff because I, you know, love hearing him within the rooms.
Yeah, he's always had a great voice. He's a really good, measured actor that kind of can play kind of a tough person, but he can also play like a very like warm, nurturing person. He's really versatile to me, I think. He just has a very unique voice.
If I can add anything about like both him and I believe it's trying to remember the other voice, the one that plays Todd, I think.
Oh, Alistair Mackey.
Yes, Alistair. Oh my gosh, I don't know why that name was so, but you know, it's kind of funny because those two played off very well, you know, when they were doing their performances. Where, you know, I kind of thought, you know, oh my gosh, this almost feels like a, you know, lost episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, but it's a lot darker.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, your story provided a lot of good like scenery for Jason to work with as a producer, and you know, for both Alistair Mackey and for Jeff Clement to work together, you know, in those scenes. Basically, it was just very well done. Like I was listening and like I was almost like getting lost. Oh wait, no, I'm listening to a horror story. That's right. Like I just felt like I was listening to like a cool caper, you know, or like just a cool. These two are about to go do some fucking crime. This is great.
Yep.
Yeah. So you did a really good job at keeping that story flowing that way.
And I'm still kind of grinning from ear to ear, putting in my Easter eggs and, you know, and just, you know, having that all throughout the story and prior nods to prior stories because I want to, you know, reward the, you know, listener and all that.
Wait, so you're not going to tell us what one of the Easter eggs is? They have to find the Easter egg?
I
guess
kind
that's
of
how it works, but
I kind of gave it away.
Okay, wink, wink. All right, cool.
Something. Prior stories. Please don't kill me.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So Jeff Clement is a really good actor. Did a great job in that position.
For sure.
Someone else could have played it, read the same words exactly how you wrote them, and I just feel like they could have made it seem more like the person was suffering,
it wouldn't have been
per
the
se.
Same.
Yeah,
it wouldn't have been the same because to me, Jeff literally was Lindsay in that role.
Yeah, it was very reserved and just like, I just need to get out of this shit, I guess. Like, fuck. Mm-hmm. Not just like, oh God, what was me? What's happening? Oh, I lost my toe. Like, yeah, there was no. Anyways, so I was thrilled too by his performance. Arthur, having David Cummings in your episode, I mean that. David has just this funny ass comedic streak. If you follow him in social media, if you ever met him in real life, he's like king of dad puns, and he's doesn't have any kids that I know of. So, how did you like having him do Captain Dave?
Oh, I felt like I hit the trifecta because the very first voice that I hear is the immortal, you know, Joe Stovko. And I'm like, oh shit, Belial's in my story. And then I heard Eddie's voice, and I'm like, oh shit, Beckett's in my story. And then I heard Captain Dave. I'm like, oh shit, David's in my story.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh my God. I had people literally sending me private messages going, hey, is this like an alternate Beckett room? Is this like an early Beckett story? Is this a Belial story? And I'm like, I don't know. I was like, they just did the voices. I don't get to pick.
Yeah. So you were happy with how it turned out, huh?
I was surprised because usually they send us authors like an early cut of just our part of the story or whatever, just so we can hear what it sounds like before everyone else.
Right.
So I had to work that night, so I didn't get to hear it till I got off work the next morning because I'm working third shift now. And I just sat in my car, just open mouthed. I was like, "Oh my goodness!"
It was fun for me to hear because we've only had Eddie Cooper on the show as Beckett, and so it was fun to hear him play, you know, your character Ryan Bell, because he was much more normal. He wasn't like, I wouldn't say Beckett's threatening, but Beckett is very commanding and authoritative, and he's just right there in your face. He's really big, but and Eddie is that. Eddie is a very powerful actor, but I just appreciated how he approached Ryan's like character. Like Ryan really played it up. I felt like going through the story like, no, there's no way this Ryan Bell character, he's just being duped. Like he's being truthful here. He's just taken, things that have happened in real life, murders that have happened in real life. He's turned them into horror stories. That's all he's doing. Like this radio guy is fucking out of his mind. He's, old and something has gone wrong. He's snapped, right? I was believing that because of how well he was playing, or excuse me, how well Eddie Cooper was playing Ryan Bell. So I was very impressed to see this alternative version that he could play for us in the podcast.
Yeah, and then ironically, that same day, I had to make way down to my local Lon John Silver's and was upset because they didn't have a swab the deck game. So,
are those still around? I used to eat there like 15 years ago.
Yes, I still got one in my town.
Interesting. Okay, yeah. Out in California, there used to be a lot in the early 2000s. I used to get their like popcorn shrimp or something there. Nothing better than shrimp from a fast food restaurant.
Now, interesting enough, my story was paired with a part 4 of a story, which has been continued for, I think, most of season 3 is when it came out, because my story was paired with investment from the board.
Oh, you're talking about the narrative, the in story.
Oh yeah, because if you remember back in season 3, there was quite a few little side stories. One of them was investment from the Grove, and then you had investment from the Mount and investment from the Far, and this was kind of like a culmination of all those, where it was investment from the board, and all these elements came together, and it's like, oh shit, what are they doing for season 4?
Well, so what do you think? So let's put on some different hats here. Like the both of you are big fans, and you both understand very well, I believe, how the story has been unfolding. You both are very good at understanding all of the Grey Roomsian stuff happening. So what do you think is happening with all of these investments? What is your take on what is happening?
I don't know if I can exactly say so much. I'm sorry.
Man, you're biased. I forgot. You know all the secrets now, Tori.
Tori got the keys, so I'll take this one, Brooks. I won't let him.
Arthur, you're the only super fan now. You say, wait, hold on. Quick aside. See what happens, Tori? You're a super fan, but then when you get the keys to the kingdom, you're like, oh shit, how do I be a fan still?
That's why at noon today I'll be resigning. No, just kidding. I'm kidding.
Damn it. All right, so Arthur, you are now our only super fan. Go ahead, Arthur. What do you think's happening?
Well, I'll tell you what. I've been doing some studying, all right, and I've noticed some common threads. So don't stop me if I'm wrong. Just feed into my theories.
I will say nothing.
Oh, sure you will. You'll be like, that's interesting. So every guest that we've done a narrative story on, so Raymond, Samantha, and Beckett, a common thread is that all of our guests seem to want to change, but eventually towards the end kind of fall back into their bad habits, because the longer they're in the rooms, the more memories they get back, and it kind of messes with the rooms, because the first time that the rooms were messed with was all the way back in season 1. Story Everything Ends. Raymond went into the unnamed room, and that's how Everything Ends began, because he went into an unnamed room. And like I said, as all the guests get their memories back, it seems like their power grows and their ability to influence the rooms grows. So I think that's kind of unique. I think that's a mortal thing, where if you're mortal and you've had a soul, no matter how well they make the Grey Rooms, you bring a mortal in that has had a soul, it allows them to affect the room in a way that either they can't counter or haven't found a way to counter.
Do you think that they're bringing something with them into the Grey Rooms, or do you think that they manifest that only while they're in the Grey Rooms?
Well, they spelled it out clearly in the third season. If you remember, Beckett and Bob had a conversation, and it was in the episode titled Free Will, that one of the reasons that they need a mortal guest is because they bring the element of free will. Why? Because everyone else is bound to a rule structure. So they need that element of free will to kind of exert their will to make their plans come to fruition. So they need someone with this free will to kind of do what they want because they can't themselves.
Another thing too, that I'm thinking of while we were talking, and I've never really thought of this before, was that because I asked you, do they bring something with them? And then I thought, well, wait, what did Raymond bring with him? He didn't. There was nothing. Raymond lived a completely normal life before he died and came to the Grey Rooms, right? And then started his cycle, his original life. Beckett, from what I know, from what we can posit, was a regular dude, just had lots and lots of power, lots of political clout and power, in his life. But Samantha, in her life, had something like within the world that she was in before she died. There was this weird sense, this mental sense that she had, she had to use to kind of fight back against the Church of the One, but then ultimately, ruled the Church of the One. Anyways, something to think and ponder about. Like, what does that mean? Is there something that exists within this world that they're coming from? Or are they even coming from the same? Did Samantha and Raymond come from the same world? Well, maybe they did, because we know that Raymond almost signed up for the Church of the One, or was in talks with them, saw them. Anyways, something to ponder.
Well, that's why we've been getting these side stories, like the investment from the Far, the investment from the Grove, the investment from the Mount, because what I think is the Grey Rooms is probably the worst kept secret in the universe, because once you get a good idea, in order to grow it, you need investors, so to speak. That's why they call it the investments. That's why that series of stories is called the investments. So the more people you involve, the more complicated things begin, because now other people are not only bringing their investment to the table, but they're also bringing their own agenda, which is why in the very last story, Investment from the Board, you hear Moth, he's like, we need to renegotiate this contract because it ain't working for us.
Well, it didn't even sound like they were renegotiating. He was just saying, "Hey, we're here to pull out. We're done. We're done with this."
If you listen towards the end, they are open to renegotiations.
Correct. Yes. What I was trying to insinuate was that they didn't show up looking to renegotiate. They showed up to just say, "Hey, we're done. We're out." It was only because the architect needed to think quickly. Like, how do we save this? So anyway, yes, by the end, we're like, okay, they're going to strike up a new deal. However.
And it's because the Grey Rooms is kind of breaking these rules that kind of infringe on these other people's territories. Because Bob already let Raymond know from season 1 that whenever he enters into a locus, every person around him he's affecting. So this is messing up all their plans too. So it's kind of like, either we're going to be in on it or we're going to be against you. That's the way it felt.
You're talking about towards Moth?
Well, just towards everyone's plans, because the Grey Rooms gives these people, these guests, the ability to go in and affect change because of the free will. Everybody's bound by the rules, but now it seems like the Grey Rooms is kind of like hell's way of breaking the rules.
Yeah.
And now everyone wants a piece of it. That's why I think we're going to start seeing some new characters, some new outside influences in season 4. That's what I'm thinking. There's going to be some heavy outside influences.
Who do you think will be the next guest, basically?
Oh, Jesus.
Gonna give a joke answer?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's Weston.
I was just waiting for that.
This is your fault. You broke it.
Yeah. Remember,
That's why at noon today I will be resigning.
Yes, exactly. Tori's taking all the secrets.
Yep. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know that it really matters who the guest is.
Ooh.
I think that they can make it work with anyone just as long as they are a damaged person. Because Bob said it repeatedly throughout multiple seasons. What do you have in common? You're bad people. So it's probably going to be another bad person. I don't know what their crime will be, but who knows? Maybe we'll finally get Todd's story. Who knows? I doubt it.
Oh man, Todd's broken in different ways though. He's
Yeah. I'm not sure we want his story. I think he likes it.
right. His story is very simple. He's been broken since the beginning.
Yeah, but I don't think it really matters. But one thing I do know is that I think Beckett is going to free Bob, and I think Bob is going to rescue Samantha from the pit, and they're going to stage a coup to try and destroy the gray rooms once and for all. But because they have all these other investors on board now, and they got their own pieces in the pot now, I think they're going to team together and ultimately defeat Beckett and Samantha once and for all. Bob's going to be put back in his place or completely destroyed and replaced. I think this will probably be the last season of Bob.
Wow, that's very thorough. So Bob's gonna bring Samantha back, according to you.
Well,
that's some drama right there.
At the end of season 2, Bob reveals his true form and just basically pitches her off the top of the Grey Room's building into the pit. It doesn't say she died. It just said she got tossed into the pit.
So
true. I think with Bob being a demon and demons sow chaos, he'll find a way to go rescue her, or Beckett will find a way to rescue her.
I killed you, and I'm sorry.
Well, that's another common thing with all the guests is that they're able to travel to all these different locus points and kind of gather the main characters with them. So,
what do you think it was about Beckett that initially brought Bob? Like, what did Bob see in Beckett?
That he was ruthless and could get it done. And I think Bob knows that Beckett has a secret weapon because no one seems to be able to see Samuel but Bob. And it's my guess is that Samuel is secretly Lucifer, whose name is Samael, who is helping direct things in hell still.
But what about Beckett's actual son, Samuel? Or is that just a coincidence?
His act that's just kind of like Lucifer was the fallen son of God. Samuel, he's just using the form of Samuel because he knows that's a form familiar to Beckett.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, for me personally, I always reconciled it as like Samuel it was just a representation for Beckett to have a sounding board. It was still Beckett's projection of his son. Anyways, I mean, I could go on and on about my own. But see, I guess like Tori, I'd have to step back because I know other things that I can't like. It definitely influences my thoughts here. So
here's
I like hearing
thing.
yours. I love hearing what you think is going on here.
Well, as writers get together and talk, and one thing I know is that what you put down on paper as an outline isn't always what makes it into the finished product.
Oh, sure.
So if I hear another good idea from my accountability partner, I will run with that 100% of the time versus, the crap that I wrote.
Yeah.
Hard same. hard same, because what actually gets me across the finish line is a good idea that actually comes from Arthur. Then I appreciate it.
Wait, so what do you mean? Can you rephrase that?
Yeah, so usually what ends up getting me over the finish line sometimes is actually when Arthur points out an idea. It's like, what if you did it like this? And it unlocks just this whole new, whole new ending or thing that happened that honestly I couldn't have conceived of if I literally kept staring at the same problem hours on end. So
Interesting. Well, right.
that's
That
why.
again, that goes back to that synergy of like looking out for each other, and you've written a certain way, Arthur, so you know certain structures and formats to avoid and what works best. And then for you, Tori, you're learning how to write, but you also have a knack for just your own view of how to put words down in a different way, so that can help Arthur be like, oh, I haven't seen it that way. Definitely, authors can vibe off of each other and get better. I could never see how y'all could get worse unless you just had some asshole that was in the group, and then you would ferret them out real quick.
I got something really that's one of Tori's strongest points. That is actually, it may seem counterintuitive, but it's one of the things that makes Tori such a strong writer. Tori has not consumed very much horror in any
content,
media
or content in that matter.
Yeah, I mean, like he hasn't even seen Dawn of the Dead. He hasn't even seen the Evil Dead movies.
I mean, if you could just go on a George A. Romero binge and just watch all of the Deads, like any fill in the blank of the dead, and oh man, these are just classic zombie movies.
What I'm saying is, it works to Tori's advantage because
yes.
There's all these fresh ideas that I know are not influenced by something. Like when I write horror, I'm just trying not to rip off Stephen King or Clive Barker or H.P. Lovecraft. But when Tori writes, it's a product of pure imagination, and it's pulled from other influences that are not horror, and it comes across in such a way that's unique, that's fresh, that's why he's my accountability partner, because he has Tori has a perspective that I just don't have, because I'm saturated in horror.
Right. So I was going to say, how do you prevent that? Like, so, and also for you, Tori, too, like as you continue to write more stories, also you should think about writing like a 500-word story. You should challenge yourself to do smaller things. Be like Mark Taus and really embrace the idea of just turning everything into horror, and that might even help, you write bigger and, horror stories. Anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself.
No. Actually, I'll butt heads with you right there, because I want larger projects, because nothing says endurance like a larger project.
Well, that's what I meant, was like, you'll build to that. You'll build to the idea of this bigger, but you do definitely, like I was saying, you definitely have it with Chop Shop. Was written very well. It was a very steady paced blockbuster story. So you know what you're doing there. You're just going to keep getting better.
If I write big, and at least that's how I, think, because, Arthur and I have been having a conversation recently about a project that I've been working on. And it's funny how we keep going back and forth, where I'm like, no, it should be in this format. And then Arthur's like, no, it needs to be in this format. I'm like, all right, here's my compromise. If it doesn't make it in this format, it's definitely going to be a novella. And, that's kind of what I've been working on recently. And I mean, to me, it's not a matter of trying to keep myself in this tiny little box. I actually need to get out of it and see how big it can actually go.
Yeah, definitely. You don't want to write yourself into a corner. So as Arthur was saying, like, it is actually really cool that you are more of a, I don't want to say novice, because that almost has a negative connotation, but you're like you're fresh at this. Yeah, you have fresh eyes.
I am a fresh prisoner within the rooms, yes.
There you go. But even just writing in general, like, remember, I've told you this before, don't just write for the gray rooms. Like, write, like... Right up. I've heard before, outside of horror, just in general, like to be happy with stuff. Like I've heard, like, to romanticize everything. Like when you wake up, romanticize that cup of coffee that you drink, because that will ultimately bring you more happy thoughts, and you'll be happy with your day. So the same with writing. Like, write a horror story about, oh my God, my coffee cup just did this scary, horrible thing, and go from there and make it 500 words. Like, just challenge yourself that way. It has nothing to do with the gray rooms.
Well, I actually challenged myself one time this year by getting that anthology story, published. And the hard part about that was I was trying to make a romance inside of an urban fantasy landscape. And it was such a hard feat that it's like, yeah, this actually proves that I can probably do this, or I can do this. It's not probably, it's I can.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
the exciting part.
then you go, man. Water flows where where it needs to go. Like, go in that direction. Then, if you found something that you can write and you can do it easily, do that, because that is just going to help you. It's like going through yoga to continue to keep your body, in great shape. Like, anyways, maintenance. It's like maintenance for writers.
Well, easy is in the eye of the beholder, but I was like super happy for each feat that I was able to achieve over time.
Sure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and you remember earlier where you said you needed to read a couple more stories to kind of get an idea of Tori's tone and stuff like that.
Yes.
Well, I've probably read about 50 of 50 drafts. So when I read Tori's work, I can see larger ideas, in between the lines, and I'm like, I'm not afraid to tell Tori. I'm like, you have a larger story in you. This is this is too small for the idea that you're having. If you want to write this story, you're going to have to go way smaller. Otherwise, you're going to have to put it into a bigger project, because I can tell there's more there. So
that makes sense. Yeah, it won't fit in, a standard story. There's a bigger world at play. More to be told.
Although the real challenge right now is fitting a current project in a Grey Rooms format and trying to introduce the world through that.
So you're always going for the Grey Rooms thing. Man,
well,
I like how you said that you did this anthology thing. You're biased.
I'm a little biased. At least I have my good bias heart.
This is true. But just, I challenge you, like here on the spot, listening, people hearing me challenge you.
Sure.
Go and write a 500-word story about the most mundane thing, but make it scary. And keep it to like 500 words. Whatever. Between 500 to 1,000. But keep it smaller so that you really got to be concise. Like, because I love how big I know what Arthur's talking about. Like, when your characters are interacting, you immediately can tell that they're from a bigger, larger world. Like I said, listening to your two characters talking in the beginning of Chop Shop, like, there was this fluidity between the two of them that you can see such a larger thing happening around them, not just like a really stale scene. So
right.
For sure, you need to expand on that. But I don't know. Maybe my challenge is pointless then, because you are doing well what you're doing. I don't know actually what goal I have here. I'm excited to see other things that you write. So this is just me being rude and like, you need to write something. Do 500 words now.
No. Challenge accepted. I'll have something in Discord here soon.
There you go. So make it mundane, but then make it scary. Take something mundane and make it scary.
Here's a challenge for you. Wait till it's somebody's birthday and then write them a body horror story and send it to them through a DM.
Now, where did I
do you do that to
hear
everybody, Arthur? Hold on, I don't like this. Are you cheating on me, Arthur? Because you did that to me for my birthday. It was when I broke my wrist. That's what it was.
Yeah, so far you are the only one I've done that for. So
okay,
you are still unique in that. I promised you it was going to be a unique story.
Thank you.
It is unique to you.
So you two, thank you for being here tonight at the Grey Rooms headquarters and chatting about your creativity, and Arthur, what you think about the show and the story and what's happening here. I appreciate working with the two of you. It's been an awkward year. It's been an awkward 2 years almost now. And yet we're all here. This is the beginning of something bigger. The two of you are the beginning launch of this new season, and we have nothing but fun times coming. Arthur, we've got things brewing with you. Like, things are happening. Everything is exciting and moving forward, very positively here. This is something weird to say for something so horrific, talking about murder and death and mayhem and all that shit. So, anyways, Tori, thank you for being here.
Thank you. It's honestly been an honor to not only make it, once on Behind the Door and once on the Grey Rooms, but twice. Let's see if I can do it 3 times.
Yeah, you can keep doing it as many times as whatever the hell our future has for us here. It's great having you aboard.
Mm,
And Arthur, you're very welcome. Arthur, thank you for your story and your time and your love, and for being here tonight also.
Well, I appreciate being here. My ego is satiated for now. Although I am signed up next month for NaNoWriMo, in which I hope to write not one, but 2 novellas for NaNoWriMo. So that's my next big project coming up.
Excellent. Tori, do you have any projects coming up for you personally?
Well, some of them are Grey Rooms related, or it, depending on how circumstances pan out, it might turn into a novella. To be determined.
Cool.
Yep. I know I said something about a novella way earlier, and I probably wasn't ready then, but as we're getting closer to me getting done with my schooling and all that other fun stuff that I gotta do career-wise, definitely there is something on the horizon. It's just more, I gotta wait out a few more years before making any of those moves, because livelihood does kind of come first, because I gotta put food on the table, you know?
Yep. Real life always comes first. All of this podcasting is only because we have the extra time to put our love into it. So, absolutely.
Yep. Nope. I'm letting my family starve. It's all about writing, and they can sleep outside. I don't care if I pay the power bill. It's writing from here on out. I'm doubling down.
You're such an asshole. Gosh, I don't know why. I'm rethinking this whole thing. I'm gonna have a talk with Jason.
Oh, that's amazing.
We're gonna boot some authors out. Anyways, all right. I love the both of you. I hope you both have a great night, and we will all be chatting soon.
All right.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
I blame Weston.
Join us each week after every episode for another edition of Behind the Door.